Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. It is Thursday, October the 27th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith. Hey, we were just talking off the air yesterday how I hadn't missed a show all season, but Alex, the day after that, sure enough, stomach issues arise, and Alex under the weather today won't be able to join us today, but hoping to have Alex back with us tomorrow on the show. But we have another special guest joining me, and this is someone that has become not only a friend over these last several months, but a betting sounding board, if you will, exchanging opinions back and forth, both trying to get better, breaking down the card. He's been someone that we've gone back and forth with opinions. He's actually from Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's where he's living now. He's actually in the Toronto area earlier this week. We ended up going to a bar in the Toronto area, watching Monday Night Football, a lot of the NHL games, having a lot of fun, ripping players, ripping coaches. That's always a lot of fun. And he's someone that's becoming, I think, a better and sharper sports better and NHL better day by day, the more we communicate back and forth. He also played a little bit university hockey many years ago, and you saw him actually on couple of our bet casts last year during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Keith Grondin joining us today on the Ice Guys show. Keith, my friend, welcome to the Ice Guys.
Awesome. Happy to be here. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we get into breaking down the card, it's a huge card. 10 games. You did have a little bit of a playing background, hockey related, so tell everybody about that.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised Winnipeg. Grew up playing AA and AAA. I was fortunate enough to play 3 years junior, and then from there played 4 years CIS, Canadian University Hockey in Lakehead Thunder Bay. So that league there got a lot of exposure to Toronto and the GTA area. We were down there every 2 or 3 weekends. So go and play Friday, Saturday night, and then have a little fun Saturday and kind of roll out of bed if you did get some sleep on Saturday night to make the Sunday flight home.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, right now, give us a little bit of the, because I know this very well from talking to you many times. You are probably a persona non grata in the city of Winnipeg among Winnipeg Jets hockey fans. You are not a big fan of that team and the direction they are going in right now. Speak a little bit about, here's a chance for a Keith rant session. What is bugging Keith? They do this on TSN, actually. What's bugging Ray? They always did this with Ray Ferraro. What's bugging Keith? Yeah. The Winnipeg Jets are fucking bugging Keith. What is it about them that just doesn't make you too happy?
Yeah, I don't think that they're putting together a team that's competitive and that actually has a chance to win. You look 3 or 4 years ago on the run that they went, and I think they lost to, was it Vegas or Nashville? And ever since then, they haven't quite been the same team. I don't think they made the right moves. I don't think losing Trouba or Myers was that big of a deal. But you lose a guy like, was it Shabbat or Sherratt?
Sherratt.
Yep. Sherratt that they lost. So good guy. And I think up front, like they haven't done anything. They got rid of Laine. I don't think Laine, Scheifele, and Wheeler was the line that they needed. So, between that top six, like they have to get better chemistry going. If you look at how the Manitoba Moose play, which is their AHL team, it's the exact same system. It's get it down low. Like under Maurice, get it down low, pass up the boards for a quick little one time on net. If they don't get any traffic in front, they're not really going to score. And now, with Rick Bowness, we'll see. I think his average goals for all the teams that he's played with is like 1.2. Not actually, but not high offensive in a league where like teams are scoring on average 3 or more goals. I know he's more defensively sound. That's fine. But at the end of the day, you have to score to win. So you can't be winning games 1-0 in this league. So it's, it's tough because when the team's doing well, the city's vibrating and all that, you go to the game now and people are on the edge. You could tell that they kind of don't even want to be there. They have season tickets just because now. And so there's kind of a vibe in the city that it's like they should be doing a lot better. Like Chipman and the ownership group can be doing a lot better. I think he's more like a Terry Jones of the Dallas for the NFL, like super hands-on, has to be involved in every single decision, maybe a little bit on the micromanagement side. And this day and age, like it's not going to work. You look at what Tampa's doing, you look at what Colorado's doing, you're looking at what Stevie Y is doing. Like, they're empowering their teams, their coaching staff, working with the players, developing good young talent coming up. And I don't think the Jets are really doing that. Like, if you look at our pipeline, like we don't have anyone good coming up. So it's tough. It's
Cole
tough.
Perfetti ain't doing that for you. Ain't doing it.
No. Exactly. What's he gonna do? Unfortunately, he's playing a lot better, higher level hockey than I am. But at the end of the day, like he's not going to be your guy. He's not your franchise guy. He's not a Crosby, a Malkin, a McKinnon, a Rantanen, an Ovechkin that you can kind of build teams around. So I don't know. We'll see what shakes out here. But so I don't even have them making the playoffs this year, realistically, in their division. So.
Well, we actually agree on that. I didn't have them making the playoffs either. I don't know if I nearly thought things were the doom and gloom, portrait that you're painting regarding the Winnipeg Jets, but I didn't think it was going to be the greatest of seasons for them. There was going to be some issues. That defense, too. I know Bonus is going to try to get them to be more compact, tighter, better defensively, but at the same point in time, you got to work with a team that struggled to keep the puck out of their net. So we'll see how that goes. They're actually in action tonight, so when we break down the card, we will mention it. Now, again, with our guests that have been on for the first time. Now, Keith was on the Betcast last year, but on the actual Daily Show for the first time. We try to find something from their hockey past that we can show everybody, and I thought for sure we wouldn't find anything for Keith Grondin. He just played university hockey. I didn't think we'd find anything, but I said, what the fuck? I'm going to try. Type it in YouTube, Keith Grondin, see what comes up. We actually did find something, believe it or not. A little bit of Keith's handiwork from his university hockey days. So let's roll this.
It's on veteran forward Keith Grondin.
This Thunderwolves player profile is brought to you by Nutrition Corner and Country Store.
Now, how long ago would this have been?
This might have been my second year, I think.
The outdoor rinks are always packed.
Or I guess fourth year. There we go.
The rinks are always sold out.
That's got to be, I'm guessing, what, 10 years ago?
Games, just good overall community.
Yeah, 2014, 2015, just under 8-9 years ago.
Growing up, I always knew I wanted to kind of go into
So let's see
business.
these McDavid-like moves here right now. Let's see that.
Got to school, financed out with more investments.
Look at that. Going to the tough areas of the ice. Keith, say on this show, if these players go to the front of the net, I always call them out and say, great job.
That would enable me to play my fifth year here.
You're making me miss it now.
Maybe just look at starting to get into the workforce.
How about the body parts? Are they still hanging in there?
Yet.
Oh yeah.
So I started my junior career in Bossier.
Yeah, still playing some senior hockey. Actually, got our first game Friday night.
Played there for a little bit.
Lakehead University, Thunder Bay, right?
Miramichi for the second half of the season when I was 19, and then my 20-year-old year I played in.
This is like the highlight reel. I mean, this is something you should have access to this here. You should always show people this. This is me and my absolute best here.
Maybe even to the point where it's rattling some guys sometimes, but I think it's humorous. There's a couple of us that understand each other pretty good, and it's fun to joke around. It's probably huge. I mean,
I know they're doing like a whole biopic on you, biography, and all these. What's hockey mean to you? How'd you get into it?
Growing up, I played other sports, but
yeah,
the amount of hours I put in practice, games, just
that's awesome stuff, my friend. There you go. Back in the day, a little Keith Grondin. There's the surprise right there. So we did find something. It's on YouTube about Keith's playing days. How long has it been now since any sort of hockey, you play rec hockey still, obviously, but
yeah. So after I was done, I still I had a younger brother, and my dad was coaching, so I helped out there. I did a lot of development camp stuff in Thunder Bay in the area. Then I was part of the AAA development program, putting that together, and started doing a lot of player development stuff on ice. And then 2017, I moved back to Winnipeg. I think every year since then I've been playing senior hockey still. So it's still 3 20-minute periods, full contact, all that other stuff. So, I mean, I'll keep doing it up until my body says I can't. So we'll see how that goes.
I could tell he was shook by that, seeing that highlight clip and that video. I was speechless, no speech from our guy Keith here upon seeing that. All right, let's get our betting caps on. We've got a huge Thursday slate. Let's get to it. We will start with the Florida Panthers taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. We've got Florida here, minus 200, road favorites, 6.5 being the total in this game. Something's wrong with Florida's right now. They're just, something's out of sync. They're out of whack. They're not exactly playing, great hockey at the moment. No question about that. How about the fact that this power play last year in the regular season was one of the best in the NHL, but as we know, in the playoffs, it went in this tank and really didn't do anything. And all of a sudden, we come into this season, brand new head coach in Paul Maurice, thought maybe a chance for this power play to improve. Well, it really hasn't. They haven't scored a power play goal, the Florida Panthers, in 7 of their first 8 games, and the only game they did score a power play goal was the 2 games that the 2 power play goals that they scored against Buffalo. So really, in the 6 of their other 7 games, they have not scored a power play goal. Their penalty kills given up at least a goal in 4 straight games. The 5-on-5 offense has been kind of spotty so far this year for the Florida Panthers. So definitely some issues right now with the Panthers at the moment, not playing their best hockey. Philadelphia Flyers have gotten off to a surprising start this year. Team that I thought could be the worst team in the East. They're 4-2, though, so far this year, although they did lose their most recent game 3-0 at home against the San Jose Sharks. Offense is still going to be, by committee is the best way to put it here for the Philadelphia Flyers. And they're going to be a team that I think all season long going to be a little bit hard-pressed, a little bit challenged to score goals here moving forward. We'll see if they can dent the twine tonight against this Florida Panthers team. It is worth noting we do have a couple of things that are worth mentioning here on the Philadelphia side of things, where we have 2 guys that are moving up the lineup a little bit here. Some of it injury-related. Obviously, they're dealing with injuries. They haven't had Atkinson this year. JVR, James Van Riemsdyk, was just put on IR by the Flyers. Sean Couturier's had another setback, and now it looks like he won't be back anytime soon. So this ends up being a game I'm passing from a side perspective. But here's a shocker for you guys. I like the under in this game. That's right. Yeah, get the Q-tips out, people. Get the wax out of your ears. You're not hearing things. Under for me in this game, 6.5. I like it. I think you've got a Florida team that's having a tough time scoring goals at this point in time. You look at it, just 2 against Chicago, and that was Alex Stalock in net. It's not like that's a Grant Fuhrer in between the pipes. He only scored 2 goals there. 3-2 win under the total against the Islanders. 3-2 loss to Florida last week in overtime. That game stayed under, 3 straight unders. And we know Philadelphia doesn't want to get in any track meets with anybody. Not the way they play. They definitely want to, keep it a little bit tighter, play good defense, commit to team defense. That's the way wants to be. That's the way Tortorella wants it to be. And Carter Hart's played well in that, a product of the team buying into a defensive concept so far this season. So I think this game stays under 6.5, and you're certainly getting a good price. I mean, you got even money earlier in the day. Now we're actually starting to see some under money come in, and I agree with it. This definitely feels like a solid under spot, and you're getting 6.5 as well when it comes to the total. Prop-wise, it's not going to be a huge prop game for me, but Noah Cates and Owen Tippett for the Flyers moving up to the second line fit that angle that maybe from a goal scorer prop perspective, maybe you can sprinkle a few bucks on those 2 guys. Keith, what do you think in Florida, Philadelphia?
Yeah, I think it's, last year it was hammering Florida for overs the whole time. And then you have the Maurice effect coming in, right? Which, Jets didn't score a lot of goals. And it seems like if he's trying to implement that same system, it's not the same. I think them losing Huberdeau is huge because Barkov and Huberdeau might have been one of the best 1-2 combos in the league. You replace it with Tkachuk, a little bit different of a player. He's having some good success. I've been hammering him on shots over just because Barkov's that kind of playmaker. But yeah, I just, Philadelphia, like yourself, I didn't see them really coming much or having much to offer this year. So they've kind of been a shock to me. was actually looking at, the next month out, and they're going to have a lot tougher games this upcoming. So we'll see. I mean, Florida, you go down and you lose to Chicago, which is probably still one of the worst teams in the NHL. So, I mean, you got to rebound off a game like that. So I would probably lean a little bit more on Florida. But Philadelphia at home, they've been good. Tortorella, again, not my coach of style. So I have two coaches that I don't like coaching this game. But yeah, I agree with you on the under there. Philadelphia is going to play tough. Florida's struggling. No power play action. And I mean, it's not like they're not getting any opportunities, right? In their last, they're averaging probably 4 or 5 power play opportunities a game. So, I mean, special teams win games, and that's what's going to also create overs for totals.
Yeah, and Hayes as well. A good point by Po Buddies Nerfic. That's a good angle to go with for props. Players that get benched, during a game, and it was during a game they were benched, both of them. Kevin Hayes and Travis Konechny for the Philadelphia Flyers in that game against San Jose. Both of them in that 3-0 loss. Torts wasn't happy with their compete level, their effort, their defensive, play away from the puck. And he said, sit your ass down. I mean, get used to that, boys. That's what you get with Torts. If you're not playing up to his standard, he's going to put your ass on the bench. It's the way it is. And Kevin Hayes and Travis Konechny both experienced that against San Jose. They're both back in the lineup tonight. They're both going to be top line on the top line again for the Flyers, along with Joel Farabee. So there you go, Konechny and Hayes. If you buy into that, players always, that's sometimes a wake-up call when you have that kind of performance and you see you get benched during a game. So that could be something to look at with both Hayes and Konechny, the angle of player returning to the lineup or returning next game after being benched, and either scratched or benched. Sometimes you're scratched, you don't play in the previous game at all, and then in their case they got benched during the game against San Jose. And actually we have an example of a guy that's been scratched lately in another game that we're going to get to pretty soon as well, in terms of a prop that I think might be worth a look tonight in that game. All right, so there we go. That's Florida Philly. Let's move on now and speaking of the game, this is the game that I just mentioned that we're talking about, that said player who's been scratched that's returning to the lineup. Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo minus 180 to minus 190 now as home favorites. 6.5 being the total here in this game. As far as that goes here, I think I got to take a little shot here with Montreal, even though I've been very, very supremely high on Buffalo. Very, very impressed with the way they've played. There's no getting around the fact this is a brutal travel scheduling situational spot for Buffalo. How the NHL does this to teams, I have no fucking idea how you can do this to Buffalo. They just played Tuesday night in Seattle, final game of that very lengthy swing through Western Canada and then Seattle, 4 games out west. And then you're going to give them not even 48 hours to fly back from Seattle, west to east, play this game less than 48 hours later at home with 1 day off in between. I mean, we can do better than that as schedule makers, can we not? I mean, that's just putting a team incredibly through the 8 ball here in this game against Montreal. So I think Montreal could jump on Buffalo early. I split it up with the first period and the full game on the Montreal Canadiens here. First period money lines around plus 130. Full game money line around plus 160, plus 165. I just think it's a tricky spot for Buffalo here. It is. I think Buffalo, when all things are equal, they're probably the better of these two teams right now, the way they've started. I like what I've seen from that young forward group. I'm also concerned, too, with the injuries they have on the blue line. 2 starting defensemen. We've talked about this angle quite a bit, and it's also what's gravitating me toward over 6.5 in this game, which is currently around minus 125. Cluster injuries on the blue line. It's a situation where, when that happens, that's when breakdowns happen. That's when more turnovers of the puck happen. And that's when more defensive mistakes happen for teams that have multiple starting defensemen out. And for the Buffalo Sabres, you'll be without Matthias Samuelsson, who's been put on IR, and Henry Jokiharju as well, added to the injury reserve list here for the Buffalo Sabres in this game. So all of a sudden, Lawrence Pilot has to draw into the lineup. Casey Fitzgerald, 2 defensemen playing for the first time this year. Dahlin, Lyubushkin, Power, and Bryson the top 4 defensemen here for the Sabres. So again, shakeups on the blue line. It's not exactly a good thing in terms of defensive continuity. We know up front they've been able to score goals. And the player I referenced in terms of being scratched for multiple games on the Buffalo Sabres road trip that is being put back into the lineup tonight and is going to be on the second line for the Sabres, it is going to be Peyton Krebs. That is who I am talking about. Peyton Krebs, I think a player that's going to be pretty good for the Buffalo Sabres long term, but obviously didn't have the start to the season he hoped for, that the coaching staff was looking for, that the team wanted. And as a result, he sat out a couple of games on that road trip. He's now back after being a healthy scratch, and he'll be slotted on the second line for the Buffalo Sabres tonight with Casey Middlestat and Victor Olofsson. I like that prop. I like players that are hungry, players, after, being scratched. Now you're getting your opportunity, not only your opportunity, but in a top 6 forward role and an opportunity to really make an impact. So Peyton Krebs' goal scorer prop tonight is absolutely, in my opinion, worth a look. I would never talk you out of Tage Thompson for Buffalo, who continues to just produce. I think J.J. Peterka, even the games he does not score, you notice him. He's getting opportunities. But I think tonight that angle with Peyton Krebs moving up to the second line, getting an opportunity. Some books have him at plus 400, plus 385, plus 430. I mean, that's the kind of price range we're talking about tonight with Peyton Krebs to score a goal. And he's playing on the second line. He's, wants to make an impact, wants to make a good impression after being a healthy scratch for the Buffalo Sabres on that road trip. So I think it's a great prop situation here with Peyton Krebs tonight for Buffalo. So Montreal first period, Montreal full game, split bet for me there, and also over 6.5, minus 125. And keep in mind, I grew up a Sabre fan. So no bias in my heart. No bias. You got to separate your bankroll and your fandom. You have to. And I don't think this is a good spot tonight for Buffalo. Maybe they prove me wrong. I think they are better than Montreal, but there's no way this spot is better for Buffalo compared to Montreal. Keith, what do you think here? Habs, Sabres?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Buffalo's my team, and it's been an absolute grind over the last, decade and a half. So I feel like every single year they just keep signing guys for $750,000, which kind of sucks because you're not really establishing a good franchise. I heard the new ownership's a little bit different. They may not quite understand hockey, so there might be a learning curve there. I actually like them coming home. I think they stunk in Seattle. They played 4 games on the West Coast. Dahlin and Tuck are playing well. If you're looking to bet anything, you can look at Dahlin and Tuck, maybe potentially first and last, and anytime goal scorers, right? Combined, they have 11 goals. Look at them for over probably 2.5 shots as well. I think those are good player props. But yeah, I would side with Buffalo. I think, they only got 16 or whatever shots last game. They're typically up in and around 30. You can tell that they were a little bit kind of out to lunch there, maybe a little bit tired on the West Coast. Come back, rejuvenate. You're sleeping in your own bed, getting a couple good meals, and hopefully, you get fired up playing in front of your home fans tonight.
No question. So there you go. Keith liking the Buffalo side here. Buffalo's better than Montreal. I'm pretty convinced of that. But
yeah.
So they could still win this game. But I just hate this situation where you're just coming off the West Coast and you're all of a sudden with the quick turnaround, like less than 48 hours to fly from Seattle all the way. You're flying from Pacific to Eastern time zone with just 1 day off in between games. That's brutal. It's absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. If you look at from when they played Vancouver to Seattle. Yep. They had 2 days off and then they played on the third night, right? So it's not like they were doing a 3 and 4 or, a 4 and 6, that type of affair. So I think when we're looking in 3 and 4s, that's typically on that third night, you're going to see the opposing team win or at least have a better chance. And same with that 4 and 6 on that fourth night, that fourth game, that's when it's like really tough to get up. But no, I mean, going from West Coast to East Coast, hopefully it's just a straight shot flight for them. Probably a couple hours, so they get home late after the game and see what happens. So
tricky spot. Maybe Buffalo. Hey, as a fan, I'd be happy. Better, I wouldn't be because I actually like Montreal tonight, and that tells you that it's just and at the price too. Now, the one caveat to all this is Montreal's winless on the road. Okay, they're 0-2 on the road. They haven't proven they can win away from the Bell Center, so that's something we've got to overcome if you like Montreal. But I think they can maybe take advantage. That's why I also split it up, because I think in the first period, Buffalo could be at their weakest.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it's hitting the ice for the first time after that lengthy road trip. Apparently, there's background. No, there isn't. I just listened. There's nothing going on. There's no lawnmowers or anything going on outside my house. So it may be Keith, actually, that's where you're hearing the noises from in the background. But that's okay. You hear us well enough. That's what matters. All right, next up, we've got Minnesota and Ottawa. We've got the Wild minus 130 road favorites, 6.5 being the total here in this game. I ain't betting against Ottawa at home. It's just not going to happen. They have a perfect home record, 4-0. Obviously, the bad news yesterday that Josh Norris will not only miss a significant time, but 3 to 5 months and maybe the entire season. DJ Smith says it's not totally ruled out that he may not even come back this year for the Ottawa Senators. I mean, very unfortunate. 35-goal scorer last year for the Ottawa Senators, second-line center. Just was going to be such a critical component of the success of this hockey team this year. And now you're taking that 55 points in 66 games from last season out of your lineup for the Ottawa Senators. So very unfortunate for them. But I'll tell you what, they've been rolling on this homestand. This is the final game of this homestand for the Ottawa Senators. And look, this is one of those spots where you know what I've been on. If you've been watching the Ice Guys show throughout the season, start to finish, you know that in these Ottawa home games, what have I been betting? I've been betting the Sens on the money line. I've been betting the Sens team total over, and I've been betting the full game over. And I'm going back to that again here tonight against the Minnesota Wild in this game. Even though Minnesota's coming off probably their best 60-minute effort as a team, especially at the defensive end of the ice. I thought they played better, much better than they have in previous games against Montreal. But I think it's going to be a little bit tougher here against this still very potent Ottawa Senators team. And this is a very, very good situation here for some props with both sides, because I think this is going to be a higher event game between these two teams where we should see some goals back and forth. Fleury, by the way, and Forsberg are going to be the goaltenders here for this game. I should point out it's Sam Montembeault and Eric Comrie, the goaltending matchup for the Montreal Buffalo game as well. But this is a good prop game. There's a bunch of props that I like here. So let's start on the Minnesota side. Rossi and Boldy on that second line. I think they're both good goal props. Rossi's getting a second line center opportunity. Matt Boldy's got 3 goals and 3 assists this year for the Minnesota Wild in 6 games. I think you're going to end up seeing both of them make an impact offensively tonight. And you're getting value again compared to you can take Matt Zuccarello because he's just been rolling early in the year for the Wild, but you're only going to get plus 200 for him. And you know me, if that beef tenderloin is $12 a pound somewhere else, I want it at $6 a pound elsewhere. As I said on yesterday's show, I want the bargain bin. I want the good price. I want those situations where we'll get better prices. And with Matt Boldy, we'll get plus 250 compared to Zuccarello, which is only plus 200. With Rossi, you can get him in some spots plus 570 to score a goal, and he's going to be your second line center here tonight for the Minnesota Wild in this game between Boldy and Marcus Foligno. So it's a great prop situation for the Minnesota side. And then on the Ottawa side tonight, in terms of player props that I'm very much interested in, we're going to ride that Pinto again. It's a beautiful car. It really is. It treats me well. It's a luxurious feeling whenever I ride the Pinto. And I'm going to do that again tonight with Shane Pinto for the Ottawa Senators, who has now scored goals in 5 consecutive games for the Ottawa Senators. They are not moving him up to the second line center spot tonight in lieu of the injury to Norris. They're going to keep him on that third line center spot because of the chemistry that he's had on that line. But it hasn't impacted his ability to find the back of the net, which he has been able to do in 5 straight games for the Ottawa Senators. And at plus 330, plus 360 at Caesars for Pinto to score a goal, I'm on that. And I'm also on the old veteran who is going to fill that second line center spot for the Ottawa Senators tonight in the absence of Josh Norris. Derek Brassard, who actually scored when he took over that second line center position in the game against Dallas. In the last game for the Ottawa Senators. He scored a goal, moving on up to that second line center spot. So again, this is a guy that had not gone with a goal in a long period of time. It had been a lengthy drought for Derek Brassard, now 35 years old. He was a healthy scratch in the first 5 games of the season for the Ottawa Senators, but then bam, Josh Norris goes out, shoulder injury. Up goes Derek Brassard to the second-line center spot. What happens? He scores a goal, his first of the season, after moving up to the second-line center spot against Dallas in the Senators' last game, and it's a great, great price to take advantage of that. He's moved up the lineup. He's going to be in that second-line center spot, playing obviously with good players, Claude Giroux, Alex DeBrincat. Absolutely a chance to score a goal. Plus 425 is the penultimate price you can get with Derek Brassard at some books to score a goal tonight. So this is a prop bargain bin bonanza for yours truly when it comes to this Minnesota-Ottawa game. And I think it'll be a high-event game, lots of chances, lots of opportunities for both teams to find the back of the net. So for me, it's the same bets. Ottawa money line, team total over, and over 6.5 for the full game as well. Keith, what are you thinking here? Wild Senators.
Yeah, I think it's a unique matchup. I think the Wild had a really tough schedule to start the season, right? I mean, the total here I think is a no-brainer to blow it over between both these teams. Like, they're both just over machines. They're both scoring goals. And I think Wild are finally starting to win. So I would lean a little bit more on the Wild side. Kaprizov and Zuccarello last 2 games haven't been at their best. So it's only a matter of time till that line starts getting going. DeBrincat's a shooting machine, so look at him for shots. Look at Tkachuk for shots. It's interesting. I have a love-hate relationship with Giroux because he can be so good, but also too he can be kind of just fading at different times, right? So it's important for him to kind of keep playing. Getting a little bit older, hometown. So I'm sure he's loving that, but at the same time too, he has a job to do on the second line. I would lean Wild over for sure. Look at some of those props. I think Kaprizov over on shots as well. Typically, I think he's around 3.5. You can get decent value there. So.
All right, good stuff. So liking some props, some shots on goal props, and agreeing with the over here, Keith, for this Minnesota and Ottawa game. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with Alex DeBrincat. Alex DeBrincat's never a bad option to score a goal. The problem is, you know what you're going to get? The best price you're probably going to get with him is probably plus, and I'm seeing it now, plus 175. And a lot of books have him plus 140. I mean, that doesn't tickle the bargain bin parameters for me. But I understand. I mean, he's obviously a great player, can score any given night for the Ottawa Senators, no question about that. But when it comes to these, I'm looking for more of those. Again, the situations where odds makers have not priced a player adequately. DeBrincat's priced adequately, no question. Yeah. I mean, top 6 forward, everyone knows his ability to score goals. Whereas you look at a guy like Derek Brassard moving up to the second line center spot tonight, he's not being priced adequately. Plus 450 in some spots. Shane Pinto, who I talked about, he scored now in 5 straight games. Again, he's not being priced adequately. Plus 350. Some books for a guy that scored in 5 straight games for the Ottawa Senators. Those are the value prices I'm looking for when it comes to
and I would say too, like if you want, look at first and last for the team, and if you think that Brincat's gonna score, I mean, if you look at first, I think he's plus 375, and if you look at last, I think he's plus 400. So look at those, because for those kind of guys to score the first goal or the last goal empty netter, like, just think of the situations that they're going to be in, or power play stuff, right? Like, if they get an early power play, they could score right off the get-go, and it's just on their own team. So look at those options as well.
Absolutely. I think that those are good bets. I know you looked at them in the NFL. Last touchdown score, first touchdown score. Yeah. Same thing can apply here. You can get better. I mean, it's you got to hope. I mean, it's kind of like a lottery ticket, because it's just the first goal of the game, the last goal of the game. But at least you're going to get a better price with someone like an Alex DeBrincat if you go that route with it. All right, we got Detroit and Boston. Original 6 matchup here. We've got the Bruins minus 250 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Don't be shocked if you're looking at this final score at 10:30 Eastern time tonight and Detroit wins 3-2. That's all I'm saying. Don't be shocked by that going into this game. There are some things that we need to discuss with Boston. They're off to a terrific start, better than we expected. 6-1 overall, 5-0 at home. They have actually been undefeated here at TD Garden this year. They're playing good defense. They're getting good goaltending from Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, although especially from Linus Ullmark, who hasn't been in net, who's been in net for most of the games, including each of the last 2 victories for the Boston Bruins. But here's the thing that I worry about in spots like this. You're rolling along, and it is Swayman, by the way, who's going to be in net tonight for the Boston Bruins. 1-1, 5.4 goals against average. Let's keep that in mind for Swayman here. And he started against Arizona, gave up 3 goals, and then he had the 6 goals he allowed to Ottawa in that game that they lost to the Senators. So, let's calm down a little bit with, Jeremy Swayman here at the moment. Here's the thing that bothers me. You're rolling along. You're playing terrific, 6-1, 5-0. You've overcome a glut of injuries so far this year for the Boston Bruins. You had Charlie McAvoy still out. You had Grzelcyk out for a few games to start the year. Brandon Carlo ended up on the IR. You haven't even had Brad Marchand back yet until tonight, where it looks like Brad Marchand will indeed make his regular season debut for the Boston Bruins. What a incredible healer. I mean, did Moses cure him or something? Or like for some Bible character? Did they just put their hands over Brad Marchand? You're cured or some shit? I don't know, but this is incredible that Brad Marchand is back already because he was scheduled initially to return after Thanksgiving. So we're talking late November, early December before we fucking see Brad Marchand back on the ice. And now here he is back on October the 27th. It really is incredible. Going into this game that Brad Marchand's back this quickly. But here's the thing. I've seen this happen for years in hockey. They get the big star back or one of the top players back. Everybody relaxes. It jams up the chemistry that's, all of a sudden permeated for Boston these last few games. They have to, Jim Montgomery has to switch up the lineups now and the line combinations because Brad Marchand is coming back. Line combinations that even in his absence have worked for the Boston Bruins here the last few games. And it's a spot where I've seen teams lose repeatedly. This is not just a one-off. This is not just, it happens once in a blue moon. This has been multiple times during the course of a season. The teams, especially when the team's playing well prior to getting that big player back. And the Bruins were playing well prior to Brad Marchand coming back tonight. And then all of a sudden they get Brad Marchand back. Again, Montgomery is switching up the forward lines for this game tonight. You look at what they're going to be rolling with here, the Boston Bruins. They're bringing Marchand right away back with Bergeron and DeBrusk. They're keeping Pasternak, Krejci, and Hall together. But now Marchand all of a sudden up to the top line where Zacha had been before, and now Zacha falls to the third line to play with Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick. All of a sudden you've got significant chemistry that's disrupted. Chemistry of a team that's 5-1 so far, or 6-1 this year. That it's been working for them. So I worry that we're going to just see this team, something out of sync tonight for the Boston Bruins. That's number one. Number two is I only had the Bruins a -180 favorite because everybody knows I'm higher on Detroit than the betting markets. I've always had my own money line prices in my head better than with Detroit than what we've seen available in the betting markets. To me, I think Boston should be -180 to -200 in this game. It shouldn't be this high, -250 against the Detroit Red Wings. I know the Red Wings stunk against New Jersey in their last game, 6-2 in that game, losing, and they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. Lost in overtime to LA, lost in overtime to Detroit, and then Chicago rather, and then they lost 6-2 to New Jersey. The only win was 5-1 against Anaheim. So yeah, they've had some issues winning games, but that game against New Jersey, Nedeljkovic was in net. I think it's going to be Husso, not confirmed yet, but I'm expecting Billy Husso to be in net. And right now he's starting to, I think, establish himself as the better of the two options right now for Detroit. 2 goals against average, .939 save percentage, a 2-0-1 record when he has started this year for the Detroit Red Wings. This is a price play for me. Bruins are laying too much here in this spot, and I worry about the chemistry being all fucked with Brad Marchand back. You would think they're better with Marchand back. They should be. You're thinking, what are you talking about? How do you not think the Bruins are a better hockey team with Brad Marchand back? Long term, they are. First game back, when the team's winning, feeling good about themselves, the chemistry's working, and all of a sudden you plug this guy back into the lineup, it can disrupt things for one game Don't be shocked if Detroit's live. And other than that New Jersey game, they've been playing teams tough this year. Detroit for me here, plus 210. I'm going to take the shot as a big dog in this one. What do you think, Keith? Red Wings, Bruins.
Oh man, I think I'm against you all day today. No, I honestly, you look at that top six and you look at how the Bruins play structure-wise, like even though they have a new coach this year, I think just like that original six feel and the culture that I get from Boston. And I mean, I've been to a few games as well, just because I've been down there for work and whatnot. And it's just like, you can just feel it. Like those same top six guys, they play the same way. It doesn't really matter who the coach is. And I think they're able to kind of dominate through and through within. And they're good mentors for the younger guys coming up, right? So I think Marchand, I don't always agree with some of the weird stuff that he does, but he's a good player. He works hard. He's in good shape. He's training with some of the best players in the league right now. So that's probably how he probably went on the Gary Roberts diet there and sped it up a month or something. But yeah, so I mean, like as far as the game, I think Boston continues to roll. I don't see any flaws in their game at all. As far as like over under, I would definitely look at the over here. Both teams are just scoring at will. Maybe look at Hall scoring a goal. We have to think too, like Bergeron, Marchand, and DeBrusque, they're going against the top D, right? So if you have Hall, Pasternak, and Krejci on the second line, they're probably going against that second pairing. So you can look at Hall to potentially score. Look at some of these assist props too, because when these guys are scoring, it's the whole line that's getting. Not a lot of D are getting assists on this team, so you can find some good value on assist props there. On Detroit side, maybe look at Larkin. I think he's kind of the one that stood out for me on my side for Detroit. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm Boston and the over.
All right, Boston and over 6.5 as well. In this, I actually lean over as well. I mean, I cashed an over with Detroit against New Jersey. The thing is with the goaltending matchup in terms of the total, Husso I think is better than Nedeljkovic at the moment, but I think Swayman actually might be a little bit worse than Allmark at the moment. Allmark's been terrific so far this year for Boston. Swayman's given up 6 and 3 in the 2 starts he's made, 9 goals in 2 games combined. So.
Yeah, and I think like that's a sore spot for me because I think Allmark's a really good goalie, and I think Buffalo didn't give him enough of a chance there. And now Boston's reaping the rewards clearly.
Yeah, he's played well, 5-0 as a starter this year for the Boston Bruins. No question about that. I had to show that comment from C. Bills because it's true. I remember those games last year for Colorado, playing well without McKinnon or Makar, and they come back and they lose the first game. I'm saying that's a possibility for Boston tonight. It very well could have. By the way, props for this game. There are a few that I like. Obviously, Marchand's back in the lineup. Could he score first game back? Yeah, but you're still not going to get the bargain. It's Brad Marchand, right? I mean, you're going to get him priced like it at plus 140. Yeah, those are tough props for me to bet when all I'm getting is plus 140. What I am looking at though is on the Detroit side tonight in this game, Joe Veleno up to the second line with Kopp and Raymond for them tonight. Joe Veleno, and a guy that I believe in the last game scored for Detroit, plus 650 in a couple of books for him to score a goal tonight, and he's on the second line for Detroit, plus 650. Now that is the ultimate bargain bin right there. That's something that gets me excited when I see that. Plus 650, Joe Veleno, Detroit on that second line tonight to score a goal for them. And also Dominic Kubalik, who is going to be on the top line. This is actually one of the, and you would think Dominic Kubalik top line, he's really rolling right now for the Red Wings offensively, playing great. I believe he's on a multi-game consecutive goal-scoring streak right now. Yes, 3 straight games with a goal for Dom Kubalik of the Detroit Red Wings, playing on that top line with Dylan Larkin and David Perron, and plus 300 in a couple of books for him to score a goal tonight for the Red Wings, Dominic Kubalik. Plus 300 at Caesars, plus 290 at FanDuel, plus 260 at BetMGM, 280 at Pinnacle, and most books have it in that plus 280 to plus 300 range right now for Dominic Kubalik to score a goal. That's tremendous value for a guy that's on the top line and a guy that has now scored in 3 straight games. So those are some really good props that I think that stand out that are worth a sprinkle in this game tonight. Blues Predators as we move along here. Nashville -170, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. I know they played last night, so it's a second of a back-to-back game for the St. Louis Blues, second of back-to-back games for them after a 3-1 loss to Edmonton. I actually thought they played well enough to win. You know, they had chances, they had opportunities in the second and third period last night, but Stuart Skinner just had a terrific game in net for the Edmonton Oilers last night. He was absolutely terrific, and we'll get more on the Skinner tangent when we talk about Edmonton later on in the show, but he was great. And St. Louis, if you're the Blues, you can't be mad at the effort. You know, you actually carried the play for a large part of that game against Edmonton, but you just couldn't find the back of the net. You got to tip your cap to Stuart Skinner. He played a good game for the Edmonton Oilers. But back-to-back situation for the Blues. You look at their schedule. They have not played a back-to-back this year. So, again, the first month of the year, especially when you've not had a lot of these situations, when you played on back-to-back nights, I don't say it's, wow, they're really going to be fatigued. Wow, they're really going to be gassed. Wow, they're really going to be tired going into this game tonight. I don't see it that way for the St. Louis Blues. The thing that would concern me more is that they played 3 games on the road. They come back home for 1 game, and now they're going back on the road again. You know, that's what's more concerning than the back-to-back. Especially because it's their first of the year. Nashville's struggling. I can't lay a price with this team right now. They've lost 5 in a row. Their only 2 wins of the year were the 2 wins they got against the San Jose Sharks with in Prague, Czechia, to begin the season. Those 2 games over in Europe. That's it. So this team is not playing very good hockey right now. I don't know what's happened with them defensively even. I mean, they've given up 5 to Dallas, 4 to LA, 5 to Columbus. It was a horrible, I think, second half of that game where Columbus just lit it up against this team. And then, they tightened it up a little against Philly, and now all of a sudden you overcompensate for your defensive woes, and now all of a sudden your offense dries up, and you end up losing 3-1 to the Philadelphia Flyers. So this team's just not in a good way to lay a price with, at least for me right now, in terms of this Nashville team. We don't have the goalie confirmations yet for this game, but we expect Saros in net, who's not been at his absolute best. 3.03 goals against average, .894 save percentage, 1-3 record. You would think Greiss will be in net tonight for St. Louis on the second of a back-to-back games. I'm not a big Greiss fan. That does bother me a little bit if I'm going to get involved with St. Louis, but man alive, I'm leaning St. Louis here in this game. I know he started at Winnipeg earlier this week. They lost that game 4-0, shut out by the Jets. Not a big Greiss fan. I get that, but it's just a situation where St. Louis, even at +150 back-to-back, but off a loss, it would be the side I'd lean with. I might put a couple bucks. Nothing significant, but I'd still put a couple bucks on St. Louis and just continue this anti-fade of Nashville, or this fade of Nashville, this anti-Nashville sentiment until things change. As far as the props go, close shave Barbashev. I talked about it yesterday. Ivan Barbashev for the St. Louis Blues. He is a guy that has been moved up to the top line, and we got robbed completely of him cashing a goal prop against Edmonton. Skinner robbed him a couple of times in that game. He could have easily scored. I think Ivan Barbashev's worth another shot tonight to score a goal. You're going to get, again, a guy on the top line right now for the St. Louis Blues at an incredible price to score a goal tonight. Once again, in that +300 range. Yeah, +350 in some spots. Are you kidding me? Are you shitting me? +350. Guy on the top line. Guy that could have had a goal or 2 last night for the St. Louis Blues. So that's a great prop bet there once again. Hopefully tonight he's rewarded and able to find the back of the net. There is one for Nashville, actually, that I am looking at here tonight for this game. Let me just see if I can find it here. I believe someone was moving up to the top 2 lines tonight for them. Just Cody Glass, that's who. Yeah, Cody Glass for the Nashville Predators. He's going to be on the second line center spot tonight for them. An opportunity to make an impact playing with Granlund on that second line. Granlund and Niederreiter. It looks like still Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne, but that's the one I'm interested in for Nashville. Cody Glass moving up, second line opportunity for him, +500 in some spots to score a goal. Oh, that bargain bin's humming today. Hopefully we get some great specials at the bargain bin of goal scorer props tonight on this NHL card. What are you thinking here, Keith? St. Louis, Nashville.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting spot. I thought Nashville would be a lot better than what they have been this year. I mean, if you look at Roman Josi, who's like one of the heartbeats of their team, he has 1 assist in 7 games, right? Typically he's a shots over machine, but just things aren't clicking. Forsberg only has 4 points. I've been high on St. Louis the beginning of the year. Obviously, the last 2 games. They started to slow down a little bit, but you look at like Shen, look at him for over half an assist. I think it's still plus 120 on that side. That whole line is doing pretty good. I've been riding Kyrou on shots, giving up a little bit, but for a guy that I think that last night was his first game he missed, not a bad play. If you look at player assists for Roman Josi, I would take him under. Granlund, if you want to take him over on assists, you can do that as well. Again, highly recommend taking Shen over assists. He's playing on the first line there. But yeah, so I St. Louis. Oh, and then also back-to-back games for St. Louis, I think under. Again, good defensively sound. Nashville's not really scoring much. I don't even know if they'll be able to capitalize on them. So I'd lean more St. Louis, but definitely hit the under on this game.
All right, there you go. Some props. An under prop. That's right. Did you hear that? Again, get the Q-tips out. Make sure you can get the wax out of your ears. Make sure you heard that. An under was recommended for a player prop, I think for the first time on this show, believe it or not, by Keith just now on Josi under assists, and he's also liking the under in the game. All right, next up, Edmonton, Chicago. We've got the Oilers here, minus 215 road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Great road win by Edmonton last night. They were the bet that saved my night, because obviously Tampa Bay Anaheim over fell agonizingly short in that 4-2 final score for Tampa last night. But Edmonton got it done for me around a minus 110, minus 115 price. They get the 3-1 win over the St. Louis Blues. Very good effort from Skinner. And that was terrific for the Oilers. That never gets old. I never get tired of doing that. But yeah, I mean, Stuart Skinner, absolutely outstanding. And if you listen to Jay Woodcroft in the postgame, if you don't think there's a goalie controversy going on right now in oil country, you need your head examined. All right, you need brain surgery or something. You need to realize we've got ourselves a goalie controversy now. This guy was just gushing all over Stuart Skinner after that game, saying, "Oh, I just knew it. I put him in because I want to win the game." And I don't know if that's a shot against Jack Campbell that Jay Woodcroft said it like that, but he did say it. If you go back and listen last night, that's what he said. He said, I put Stuart Skinner in because I think he can win us the game. But does that mean you don't think Jack Campbell can win you the game? Now, I don't know if he meant it like that, but clearly, and this is a guy that's had a track record with Jay Woodcroft. Stuart Skinner for years was Jay Woodcroft's goaltender in the AHL, all right, all these years that he was down there with the minor league team. So all of a sudden, they've got that history. He sees Stuart Skinner rise to the occasion, play like that. So the pressure now goes to Jack Campbell for the Edmonton Oilers, who's going to get the start tonight against Chicago. He's got to really start playing better. And I don't want to put all the blame on Campbell, because in these games that he started, this team has been piss poor at times defensively in front of him. So it's not fair to put all the blame on Jack Campbell for what's going on with him early in the season. But there's no question he does have to play a little bit better than what we have seen so far early in the season. And we'll see if that will happen tonight against Chicago. But I'm telling you what, I took Edmonton last night. I am not back on them tonight. Not on a back-to-back. Not against a Chicago team that's got some – look, they didn't get the memo that they're supposed to suck. They're not, because they're not playing like it right now. They are 4-2. They've won every game on this current homestand at the United Center. 3-0, wins against Detroit, Seattle, and Florida. Their offense is rolling. 13 goals in the 3 games during this homestand for the Chicago Blackhawks. So they found ways to get the job done. 4 straight wins overall for the Blackhawks. Very impressed with what I've seen. It was a 2-point effort from Patrick Kane in the win over Florida the other night. Kane said it's a good group in here, good guys, good feeling. as far as having that underdog mentality, there's really nothing to lose in here. And hopefully we can start filling up the building again. Everyone can get excited about this team and where we can go. That's good for now. I mean, I still say come back in 3 months and let's see where Chicago is. But right now they got the confidence, so it's tough to go against them here. I don't know if I'm going to take the plus price necessarily with Chicago. I'm going to do a split bet here. Full game over, 6.5. Because I do think you'll see Edmonton, the one thing about them is sometimes when they play a lower scoring game and a game that's a little tighter, rarely do they play that kind of game 2 games in a row. Look at the game we saw against, it was last week. There was a game, St. Louis, Edmonton over the weekend, right? It was 2-0 St. Louis in Edmonton. Yeah. And I say they don't play a tight, low scoring defensive, well-checked game 2 games in a row. The next game against Pittsburgh, they play after that St. Louis game. What happened? Track meet. Up and down the ice. We were watching the game at the bar, Keith and I, the other night. Edmonton, Pittsburgh, up and down the ice on Monday night, and it ended up being an Oilers win in that game. 6-3, I think it ended. So that's why I like the over a bit. And I also like Chicago team total over here. 2.5. 2.5 for the Blackhawks team total. For a team that's, again, 5-4-4 the 3 home games, 13 goals over the 3 home games. So I think they can get over that team total, only at 2.5. The Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Keith, what do you like in Oilers Blackhawks?
Yeah, so I think back-to-back's always an interesting play a little bit. St. Louis to Chicago isn't too far, so you don't really have to worry about too much travel. But Chicago at home, like you said, I was thinking this team's going to be one of the basement teams of the league, kind of surprising us. We'll see what happens. Typically, teams that do well before Christmas may not have the same consistency after, so that'll be to be determined. I like them at home tonight. I don't think I would take anything. I like the over based off of the amount of goals that they're scoring, and just with Edmonton, the game being under yesterday. Not a big props guy, but for either of these teams, I just find Draisaitl and McDavid, typically they're 1.5 on assists and points there. You never know what you're going to get shots-wise with these guys. Chicago, I mean, when Max Domi is your top centerman, that's tough. Like, I don't see him being a top 2 center on any team in any league. So, like, that's tough. It sucks that Johnny Taves is number 2 to him. But, so we'll see what happens. But definitely like the over here more than anything else. Kind of stay away from the props and go from there.
There's another elevated role player. Well, first of all, the Nuge, which I mentioned on yesterday's show, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, up to the top line, cashes in yesterday, plus 300, scores what ended up being the game-winning goal against St. Louis. He's up on the top line again tonight with McDavid, so I'm back on the Nuge train tonight just because of the price, plus 300 for a top-line player. That's a no-brainer for me when it comes to goal scorer prop, when I get a price like that on a top-line player. And for Chicago, here's one that's really under the radar. I mean, certainly Max Domi, we talked about him from goal scorer prop standpoint. Taylor Radish is actually starting to maybe get things going on the second line for Chicago. He's scored now 2 goals in the last 4 games, so I wouldn't mind Taylor Radish prop either for Chicago. But I'm going to go with Jujhar Khaira for the Blackhawks here. Jujhar Khaira is someone that's we think of as a 3rd and 4th line guy, but he's been elevated to the second line. He actually scored against Seattle over the weekend. He's playing with good players, Jonathan Taves, Taylor Radish on that second line. He's honestly on the second line. And Jujhar Khaira is more of a physical, forechecking, drop gloves every now and then type player. Don't think of him as a goal scorer, but man, he scored a couple games ago. He's getting minutes now. Second line tonight is where he's slotted in for this game tonight. And you can get Jujhar Khaira here tonight to score in some books at plus 650, plus 675. I mean, it's swinging for the fences. I get it. But he hits 1 goal. He gets 1 goal tonight, and then I could lose a few of these player props, these goal scorer props, and still be okay for the night if one of these hits at plus 650 or plus 655. And he's a former Oiler. Bingo, Zane Risk. Exactly. So you've got not only the moving up the lineup prop angle with the goal scorer market, you've also got the playing his former team angle, which always gets everybody fired up to make an impact, right? So, yeah, Jujhar Khaira for me on the second line for the Edmonton Oilers, or not for the Edmonton Oilers, for the Chicago Blackhawks, formerly of the Edmonton Oilers. I think it's plus 675. Second line, playing his old mates. I mean, man, it's a delicious prop. Win or lose, I mean, I think it's an absolutely worth the risk type of look. All right, next up, we've got Washington and Dallas. We've got Dallas minus 120 home favorites. 6 the total, actually 5.5 is the total now in some spots going into this game. I'm going to take a small stab on the over just because of where this number is now. I mean, this is becoming the way of the dodo bird in terms of the NHL betting markets with totals of 5.5 these days. I mean, we've seen a lot of these games, 6.5 for the most part, maybe the odd 6, but rarely the last, I would say, several days have we seen a 5.5 total. But we've got one here with Washington and Dallas. Dallas coming off a road trip. I can see them being a little bit sloppy tonight. I mean, it's just been, when you've been playing on the road, you come back home, you sometimes have these miscues with the puck that, creep into your game a little bit more. I could see that here for the Stars. They ended the road trip, not on the greatest footing, losing back-to-back to Ottawa and Boston. They'll be looking to rebound here. The Stars back home. I'm going to pump the brakes on fading Washington for the time being. I mean, they have won 4 of their last 5. I keep thinking that if Mackenzie Blackwood doesn't shit the bed the other night for New Jersey against them, then New Jersey could have won that game because I thought they outplayed Washington significantly. But the fact remains, he didn't play good, and Washington was able to take advantage, and they had some defensive issues in front of them. Darcy Kemper and Jake Ottinger, by the way, the goaltending matchup here for this game between these two teams. You've got a lot of injuries too. We know Hagelin, Wilson, and Connor Brown and Backstrom, of course, all remain out for Washington. Miro Heiskanen day-to-day for the Dallas Stars going into this game. This is actually a game where I don't have too much in terms of the props. Everything looks well-priced. You've got guys that are staying in the same line, or same positions, same line combinations that we saw the last game. There's really not a whole lot of change either way. But I will go with 1 for Dallas, and I'm going to go back to the well. And Turnsey knows him very well, this player. Played for his Windsor Spitfires in the Ontario Hockey League. Wyatt Johnston. He's playing on the third line, but he has made an impact. 19-year-old kid, straight out of junior, right into the show with the Dallas Stars. And here he is in 7 games with 3 goals, 1 assist, and 4 points, and goals in back-to-back games for the Dallas Stars. Wyatt Johnston. This is the guy to keep an eye on right now for them. And you can get his player prop tonight at another terrific price for a guy that scored in back-to-back games for the Stars. We're talking, here we go, plus 370. Good price. Wyatt Johnston. All right, what do you think here, Heath? Capitals, Stars.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because Washington's not what they used to be, but they're scoring a ton of goals lately, and they have a decent record. Dallas, again, I expect more, like to see Jamie Benn kind of where his career is. Like I think he's maybe averaging 14 minutes a game. Seguin, who was supposed to be like an NHL franchise superstar, has just been kind of hiding out in between the weeds down there. So yeah, I definitely like the over here. The only thing is, can Dallas score? That's where I see some of the struggles are, especially coming off that road trip. One thing that I do like, Joe Pavelski plus 120 over 2.5 shots. I think that's some definite good value there. And then if you look at Robertson and Hintz, both over half an assist there. I think that's good. I think that line is probably like, if you want to play Pavelski to get anytime goal, definitely. But Hintz plus money, so it's going to be plus 150 over an assist. Robertson is plus 125 over on an assist. I would look at those kind of player props. I've been playing those guys throughout the year for the last couple of games and stuff like that. Again, they're not going to hit every game, but when they do, it's always plus money.
But that's what I look for with the player props, definitely plus prices. And I think you've got the opportunity in a lot of games on this card for plus prices with props, whether they're goal scores, assists, points, or shots on goal. And again, that Pavelski actually plus number with the shots on goal. Pretty good price there that you found with that. Vancouver and is this the night for the Canucks? Or sorry, I should say the Canucks. We've got Seattle minus 125, home favorites, 6.5 the total. in this game. I'm tempted to take Vancouver. I am. This is the first time during this miserable run that I've been tempted to take Vancouver because they're now a dog. They're now in a spot where, everybody's just given up on them, questioning the GM Patrick Allvin about whether he's going to keep this team afloat, whether he's going to fire Bruce Boudreau. I mean, it feels like now they get to get away from this rat race, if you will, this circus in and around Vancouver, where the media and the locals are all disgruntled, upset, fans throwing jerseys on the ice in the home games. Now they get to get away from all the noise, block it out, go on the road, face Seattle, and maybe come together as a group. And the Canucks have never lost to Seattle in this building, Climate Pledge Arena. So I'm tempted. It's Vancouver or pass for me. I'm not ready to lay a price with Seattle. I know they beat up on Buffalo in their last home game, 5-1. But keep in mind, it was a miserable spot for Buffalo, end of a very long, but very successful road trip. And you clearly saw that the Sabres hit a wall in that game. Not to take everything away from the Kraken, but still a team that's played pretty uneven hockey, 3-5 this year. The Canucks, they're going to win eventually. And at least in the Carolina game, 3-2 loss, it was a better performance from Thatcher Demko. I think that's the one thing you can be, optimistic about. He definitely played better in net. And still, you're talking about Thatcher Demko in a battle in net against Martin Jones, who's going to be starting once again for Seattle. You absolutely have to give Demko a little bit of an edge there in terms of the goaltending battle. So I am going to have a small shekel or two on the Canucks. Probably nothing more than that because the confidence is just so damn at an all-time low for this team right now. And they are banged up beyond belief, as we've talked about on the blue line, with Tucker Poolman, Travis Dermott, Quinn Hughes all on IR, and Riley Stillman day-to-day on that blue line. But, I think this could be as good a chance as they've had in a while to finally snap this losing streak, get their first win of the season. And I think if you're going to look at player prop tonight, for them, it would be Kuzmenko. I think he's due to find the back of the net. They expect offense from him. It really hasn't been there, but the chances have been there for him. As far as Seattle goes in terms of their offense, there's really a lot of options you can go with. They've moved Eberle up to the top line. So, he hasn't scored yet this season, but obviously now if he's going to play on the top line for Seattle, he's going to get more of an opportunity in this game to put pucks in. And maybe have the chance to do that. His prop in this game is plus 310, plus 330 in some spots. Again, we're talking about Jordan Eberle playing on the top line, getting a plus 300, plus 330 price. It's really a solid number there. Even Jaden Schwartz on the top line is plus 300 in some spots for Seattle. And this is a guy that's been able to find the back of the net so far this year. 3 goals with 3 goals, 3 assists. And same with Matty Beniers, who we've talked about many times. And he scored the other night for Seattle. You can still get him as high as plus 270, in some spots to score a goal. So any of those Kraken top line players, I think are probably worth a look. And then it goes without saying, Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky always a threat most nights to find the back of the net as well, although the price not nearly as good on Burakovsky, plus 250 is what we're looking at there. It still might be worth a look. What do you think here, Keith? Vancouver, Seattle?
Yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall in those rooms in Vancouver right now, because again, is it the ownership group? Is it the GM? Is it the coach? The coach is really, really good. Is it someone's just putting too much pressure on him? Are they not letting him do what he needs to do? Are the handcuffs too tight? Like, what is going on? But also too, if you look at their team, like I look up their roster, I don't know where half the guys even came from. Like, I feel bad that, Brock Besser's injured right now. That doesn't help. He shoots the puck a lot. He has a good opportunity to score on any given night. You have Horvat and Pettersson, but some of these guys, like, there's no depth there. So again, bringing it back to like what Winnipeg does, it's like, how are you elevating your third and fourth line, your second and first line, and providing complementary players that can help add to offense there? So on my side, like, McCann scored I think the last 3 games, so you can look at him for plus 210 in and around there. But yeah, as far like no sides on this. If anything, I'd probably just ride Seattle. They just beat Buffalo, scoring 5 goals. That probably brings a little bit of a boost to the club and the guys. Again, is Vancouver going to put up 3 and it goes over, or are they going to lay an egg or put up 1 and it stays under? I think that'll be to be determined tonight. But it's these two teams. There's no reliability within either lineup, so it's tough to lay anything on these teams.
Vancouver's trended over the total in their games on the road this year. The Edmonton road game to open the year went over the total. Washington, Vancouver over the total. Columbus, Minnesota road games for Vancouver also went over the total as well. The only road game on that road trip previously this year, Philly, and Philly's dragging everyone into low-scoring games. More of a defensive focus there. So I do think the over could get there here tonight with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, like when Tyler Myers is still on your first D pairing, you got something wrong. It's Bambi on skates. Honestly, it's a joke. Like going to the game, paying to watch that guy play is an embarrassment. And for Vancouver to pick him up because he's from out there, right? I think he played Kelowna Rockets. It's like, man, you're 6'6" and you play like you're 5'6". 150, and it's embarrassing. Like, hit someone. Like, you're the size of Chara, and Chara was an intimidator. Like, get a little bit of a backbone, get an edge to you, and start knocking some guys around.
There it is, Tyler Myers, a.k.a. Bambi on skates, says our guy Keith. You know what? I find there are times that he's not throwing that weight around and using that big frame enough for a guy that looks like a giraffe. Out there on the ice. That's what he looks like, Tyler Myers. He should be a menace most nights.
He might have one of the weakest sticks in the league. Like longest 7-foot stick, but like weak. Yeah. Like extremely weak.
And he needs to be even better now because the defensive play of his defense partner, who has been in the league forever, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, as Don Cherry called him, Oliver Lawsome Tossum. It's declined significantly. I can't explain anymore how much his game has fallen off. Oliver Ekman-Larsson here, just breaking down left and right, losing forwards in coverage in the D zone, just bad turnovers. I mean, it's been the gamut for him, no question about that. So terrible defensively for much of the season, the Vancouver Canucks, and that's kind of why we think this game could go over the total as well. 5-2, by the way, the final score in the last 3 meetings between the Canucks and the Kraken. All right, Keith's hometown team. Here they are, the Winnipeg Jets, taking on the LA Kings. He may not be taking the plus 120 with the Jets here, Keith, just a hunch. LA minus 140, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. I don't have a strong side or total opinion on this game. The Jets are one of those teams that, look, they're 3-3. They're one of those teams that off a loss, you may want to back them. Off a win, I don't want to back them as much. I mean, we've seen them off a win this year, 0-2. They beat the Rangers. They lost the next time out against Dallas. They beat Colorado in overtime, and they lost to Vegas the next time out. They shut out St. Louis in their last game 4-0. Can they follow that up here against the LA Kings? That ends up being the question here, and we'll see if that can be done. LA, I'll tell you what, very impressed with their win against Tampa Bay because that was not a great spot for them off a long road trip. A rested Tampa Bay team, and the Kings played a great game. No question about that. I lean LA here. I think LA is the better of these two teams. Do I want to lay $140? Am I rushing to lay $140? No. But at the same time, not sure I would be interested in Winnipeg here, as I do think the Kings are the better of these two teams. So I would lean a little bit to LA here, minus 140. As far as the props go, I'd consider Appleton because he's been moved up to the top line for Winnipeg. He hasn't produced yet in that spot, but again, you're still going to get the great prices with him on the top line. And for LA, you know who it is. It's Gabe Vilardi, folks. I mean, this guy just continues to be terrific. 5 goals, 4 assists, got another goal the other night in the victory against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The guy's healthy. He's showing you why he was a first-round pick. And now we can finally rest assured and relax and breathe. You know, everyone's saying what a bust he was, a terrible draft pick, flop, and all this bullshit. Can we let a guy get healthy first? Can we let a guy get some games under his belt in the National Hockey League before we write off his fucking career? Can we do that? Holy goodness. I mean, come on. I mean, we just jumped to the gun there with Gabe Vilardi. I was very agitated hearing that rhetoric last year and going into this year. And he's plus 325 in some spots to score a goal tonight. And he's already got 5 on the year. So you can rest assured I will be looking at another Gabe Vilardi prop. A little sprinkle on Kaliev as well for LA. But what do you think here, Keith? Jets Kings.
Well, I mean, if you look at what I said earlier with bonus being big on defense, they're 1-4 over under, and you got LA's that's 6-1 over under, right? So I think it's no surprise you could probably lean under for a lot of these, just because they are going to play decent defense and they're not going to be able to score often. I mean, right now, who do you have? You have Josh Morrissey that's leading the team, and Cole Perfetti. Again, when those two guys are leading your team, you probably have problems, right? Wheeler got the C stripped for a reason. He can take a one-way ticket out of Winnipeg at any time. Thank you for not contributing, but thanks for a quick little.
Thanks for your years of service, but you suck now. Get the hell out. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
You got Connor, who had over 40 goals last year, probably on pace for 50. Everyone, big hype, right? 1 goal, 6 games. That's extremely tough. You have Scheifele with 4 goals in 6 games, no assists. Like it's just like, what kind of mess is going on here right now? And then on the flip side, you have LA that's probably prospering a little bit more, right? You have younger guys like Vilardi stepping up. You have Kempe that's almost at a goal a game. Kopitar's an assist machine, so look for props. Kopitar over assists. I think it's not quite plus money, but might be even. You have Fiala, so that whole first line, like that's a good first line. Fiala's good player. Kempe's a good player. Kopitar has always been good, like under the radar, like really sick, good dynamic player. Obviously LA hasn't had a lot of success in recent years, but he's been good stay-at-home guy that they've kind of built the franchise around, and they're never going to win a Stanley Cup in the near future, but they're going to be competitive and they're a tough team to play against. So yeah, I mean, as far as like sides, I would probably lean more LA, and then total I'd be under.
Lean LA, leaning under as well. And Kopitar assist, is that what you said for the prop?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's minus 120 to minus 125 is what we're looking at that price, which isn't bad because he's usually factoring in on a lot of what the LA Kings do on the offensive side of things. All right, final game of this massive 10-game Thursday slate, Toronto Maple Leafs, San Jose Sharks. Leafs minus 225 rather, road favorites here, 6.5 the total in this game. Certainly, I would expect Toronto to be a whole hell of a lot better than they were against Vegas. That was not a good game by their standards. We were watching that on Monday night, Keith. It got away from them. They had these breakdowns left and right. Ilya Samsonov, had to come to the rescue a bunch of times for the Leafs in that game, or else things really could have gotten out of hand. I mean, Sheldon Keefe mentioned it in the press conference. They didn't come out ready to play. They didn't start the game strong in any of the periods in that game. We'll see if they can change that here. They've had a couple of days off now. Again, as this road trip continues for them, it started in Vegas. Now they're going to roll through. Actually, it started in Winnipeg where they got the win. They lost in Vegas. Now they're going to do the 3-game California sojourn, San Jose, and then they're going to go through LA and Anaheim over the weekend. But, to me, I expect the Leafs to be good early. This is kind of, and remember, I cashed a pair of tickets with Vegas against San Jose the other night, and took Vegas first period puck line -0.5 plus 150 on Tuesday, and also Vegas in regulation. Both got it done in that game, winning 4-2. I think a similar bet is worth it here with Toronto. I'm not a big Toronto fan. I don't bet Toronto a ton, and you usually don't get value with Toronto, but I think you're going to get a bounce back effort. And look, if you're Toronto, you're off a bad game. If you damn well show up to play tonight, you'll beat San Jose. Because anybody that's better than San Jose and doesn't take them for granted and doesn't take them lightly will beat San Jose. So the Leafs should absolutely, in my opinion, beat San Jose tonight. They should be focused, ready to go. That was a horrible start to the period, and every game for the Leafs was horseshit the other night. Horseshit against Vegas. It was absolutely brutal. They know they got to start periods better than that here tonight against this struggling Sharks team. So I'm going to go with Toronto first period puck line, just like I had Vegas first period puck line against San Jose. I'm going to do that here with Toronto, -0.5, plus 130, plus 135, first period puck line, Toronto. And I'm also going to go with Toronto. I'm going to see what the regulation price is. If it's too big, I might stay off that. and go puck line instead. But right now it looks like regulation for the Leafs is Pinnacle's got it at -135. I'll still do that rather than the puck line. If you think that's too pricey for your liking, I wouldn't talk you out of the -1.5 full game puck line, which is +120. That's also a decent option, but I think the Leafs bounce back here. Rested, a chance to shake off that horrible effort against Vegas, a team they should beat, a team that any superior, motivated team, focused team, any team that shows up like that, they will beat them. Beat San Jose, and I think the Leafs will do that here tonight. As far as props go, we've got some good situations here. We do, and I also like the over a little bit in this game at 6.5, just because we have Eric Shalgren starting in net for the Leafs instead of Samsonov. They could play tighter defensively, though, in front of this guy. That's the one thing that does concern you. They actually really even commit even harder to defensive hockey tonight for Shalgren. So that would be the one thing I'd be concerned about with the over, but I'll still lean that way. But as far as props go, we've got good situations. For Toronto, we've got a big change in the lineup. Sheldon Keefe is putting his lines in a blender and shaking them up. Alex Kerfoot is moving up to the top line tonight with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. And that is one of those classic situations. Player elevated up the lineup, particularly to the top line. We must bet that player to score. It's just, you're not, like, it is insane. You've got Marner at +180 to score tonight. You've got Matthews at -140, -145 to score a goal tonight. They're on the top line. Well, so is Alex Kerfoot now, who's going to play on that top line. You know what he is to score a goal tonight? +390 in some spots. And he's on that top line. So Alex Kerfoot, even Alex Kerfoot to get a point, probably is worth a look tonight as well, because he's probably going to try to feed Matthews and Marner, who are both kind of struggling right now, try to feed them the puck a lot. So Kerfoot props, hell yes, as far as I'm concerned. Nick Robertson is worth a look. Again, I think this is the night where he could find the back of the net again. He had that great, beautiful, wonderful +550 goal for us against Dallas. He hasn't scored since, but I think tonight against a weaker San Jose team, you're going to see Nick Robertson come back to the forefront, +340, +350 at some books for him to score a goal tonight in this game. And for San Jose, I wouldn't argue with, the usual suspects, if you will. Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Logan Couture, any of those guys capable of scoring a goal. But we've got a situation where we've got a guy playing his former team, Alexander Barabanov here for San Jose. He was in the Leafs organization. Most of his time was with the Marlies, but he did play a few games at least with the Toronto Maple Leafs a couple of years ago. And he gets a chance to face his former team. And he is playing on the second line for the San Jose Sharks with Logan Couture and Matt Nieto. Now, the catch to this is he hasn't scored yet this year. So this is more of a hunch play with his goal scorer prop tonight, Barabanov. But no goals on the season. But he is on the second line. He is facing his former team. You always get fired up. And I think with Barabanov to score tonight, at plus, 400 in some spots, +380 to +400 to score a goal, it's worth a look in that with that prop. What do you like in here, Keith? Final game, Toronto, San Jose.
Yeah, so again, this is an interesting one, right? Because a lot of Leafs fans, they're thinking like the Leafs score, right? You have Matthews with 1 goal in 7 games. What's going on, right? How many did he score? He had 60 goals last year. You have Tavares and that Nylander line, and they were playing with Bunting, and really, really good line. So I'm surprised that they didn't put Roberts into the third line and keep Bunting with those guys, because every time Nylander scores, Tavares is getting an assist. So I would say look at Tavares for assist over. Also, too, Morgan Riley, look for him assist over as well. I would lean more under. Like San Jose, if there's a team that maybe averages less than Rick Bowness, it's probably San Jose. So look for them under, because the Leafs are struggling to score right now. San Jose never really scores. So definitely lean under. Sidewise, yeah, take the Leafs. They're doing their California trip, probably having some fun down there, having a good time on the beach and whatnot. San Jose, the Shark Tank, it used to be a really hard place to play in. I find that it's not as much as what it used to be back when Joe Thornton and all those guys, Brent Burns, were there. Like it was the Shark Tank for a reason. Now I think the team's quite a bit softer now. It's definitely winnable, hence they're 0-4 at home this year. So lean the Leafs. I lean under, and a couple props there.
Awesome stuff. Wow, what a debut for Keith Grondin here on the Ice Guys show. Well, you've been on the Betcast. Like I said, you were on a couple of our live Betcasts during the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, but this was your first time actually breaking down an entire card, every single game on the Daily Show. Not a bad first effort, my friend. This was your player tryout, if you will, today. You did pretty good. You got nothing to say?
Great. Yeah, no, it's, I'm nervous. A little nervous over here. Not used to talking in front of so many people, let alone like yourself.
Yeah, you'll loosen up. We'll have you back on a bunch, and you'll loosen up. You'll get more used to it. I like that you got fire takes. You're throwing Tyler Myers under the bus, throwing the Winnipeg Jets under the bus. It's good shit.
I wish there was a prop right now for guys not to be scoring goals, because I'd be hammering those props. Connor, Matthews, some of those other guys. So it's unfortunate that the betting markets don't let us do that, but.
It is. You're right. I wish we would see that. You're right. To score a goal. We never see that. It's always goal score prop. You can only bet that they will score a goal. There isn't an option that not to score a goal for. I'd love to see that. That's a great point. I
don't think there'd be much value in that, but I mean, you put you parlay a couple guys together and make it 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1 and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. You're always going to have hefty, lofty prices for that. And I think that's probably what books get shied away maybe from offering those kind of props. No question. Speaking of PTO, it's funny. And I posted this on Twitter earlier today. I actually got a DM yesterday from someone that's playing pro hockey right now in Europe. Apparently got wind of our show because I posted on all social media platforms, and says, I want to get into sports betting because I'm thinking I may not play hockey much longer, maybe another year at the most. And says, I want to get into sports betting. I've been doing it for 4 years and I want to prove myself that I'm good at it. How can I do that? And I'm like thinking, well, I guess this one might have to offer this guy an Ice Guys PTO, first ever player tryout. Come on the show. Let's see what you got. You played hockey, but now you want to get into betting. Let's see what you got here in terms of your acumen. So pretty interesting that I got that kind of a message out of the blue.
For sure, and I saw a comment earlier of because obviously we've been hammering unders today, and Claudio asked why are so many total 6.5 when so many games going under. That's just the betting markets. I find that growing up, a lot of them were 5, 5.5. Now the league has kind of moved to 6, 6.5. So you see the odd game that's 5.5. Typically you'll take it over, but a lot of these times you'll see 6.5, even 7s, and like to score 7 goals for it to be a push is a decent amount. But yeah, I mean, to get 8 goals to win that, so that's where you can kind of fade the market a little bit, right? Like I think that Edmonton St. Louis was like 7 goals. It was 2-0 game.
Yeah, 7, especially when you're still talking about, especially in a spot where the team might commit to better defense. And Jay Woodcroft was kind of saying prior to that Saturday game, St. Louis, Edmonton, we need to tighten up a little bit. They did. They didn't win the game, but they did play better defensive hockey, no question. And you can take advantage of some of those opportunities. And you're right, the baseline totals in NHL games now are 6, 6.5, way more than 5.5, which is what they were, 10 years ago. So interesting to see. And again, last night, what did we see? 3 games all under the total. 3-0 to the under last night. So let's see now if they've adjusted these totals too high. And as you could tell tonight, I like a couple of unders. I actually think a couple of these games will stay under, especially that Florida-Philly game. That's probably my favorite under of the entire card tonight. There probably will be a few unders tonight. So I'm trying to be a little more picky when it comes to overs tonight.
Yeah, you look at last night. Last night was an undercard. I hit all 3 games under solo, and then I parlayed them all just for some fun, and everything came through, right? So every once in a while a squirrel finds a nut, and that was me last night.
Well, even for me, and Alex too, we've said this, we've been doing this for 10, 12 years. We're still evolving. We're still learning. You never stop learning, no matter how many years you've been doing this. And that's the thing you always have to keep in mind whenever you're attacking the betting board on a daily basis. All right, we're going to wrap the show up with best bets in just a second. Before we do that, a reminder, patreon.com/iceguys. Check it out there, $10 a month. We've got the daily betting card for the show. We've got our Ice Guys videos, podcast links, goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, you name it, all there. And our first bonus video content segment we did with Jay Rosehill earlier this week. So make sure you check that out, patreon.com/iceguys. Great content there. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this Thursday edition. Keith, let's start with you. Best bet.
Oh, man. Best bet of the night? Boston, Detroit over.
All right, Boston, Detroit to go over the total there, 6.5. Actually, there is a 6 out there. We'll give you a 6 because BetOnline has over 6 minus 123. So we'll give you that. Boston, Detroit over 6 minus 123 for Keith Grondin, his best bet for tonight. My best bet for the night, I'm going to go with Toronto first period puck line against San Jose. I like that one quite a bit. Jump on this San Jose team. You're rested. Nobody was happy with that effort against Vegas the other night. Piss poor, if you ask me. I think you're going to see a better start. And the thing that really hurt Toronto against Vegas was bad starts to the period. The first period, give up an early goal quickly and take a bad penalty. Third period, give up 2 quick goals. They emphasized a better start to the periods, and I think you're going to see that here. It's a great situational bet, taking a step down in class, going from playing Vegas to San Jose. Again, superior teams that come ready to play San Jose will beat San Jose during the course of the season. So Toronto Maple Leafs first period puck line -0.5 plus 135. That is going to be my best bet here for this Thursday NHL card. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. 213 live viewers. We appreciate it. Hit the like button. Hope to have Alex B. Smith back with us tomorrow on the show, and we'll have Keith back on the show many times.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Whenever he can manage it. Absolutely. Great stuff. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For our special guest, Keith Grondin, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Friday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.